Don't even start your engineering manager interview preparation without watching this video. Most of these top tech companies are looking for great engineering managers. You might be the perfect manager for Google or Meta, but you probably won't get the job. Why? Well, because you need to know the 5-stage interview process they use to filter out 95% of candidates, and you need a guide. Today, I am going to be that guide. Hi, I am Vinay Bansal, an engineering manager. I've been a manager and senior manager at top tech companies, and I've conducted hundreds of interviews for these exact roles. Today, I am giving you a detailed guide on how to crack the complete engineering manager interview process at top tech companies like Google. So let's get started. Alright, so let's first look at the entire hiring process from a very high level. It's not just one-day interview. You should think of it as a multi-stage funnel, and you'll need to pass all the stages. Broadly, the journey is broken down into 5 distinct stages. First, the recruiter screen. Second, the technical rounds. Third, the leadership and behavioral rounds. Fourth, the team matching phase, and finally, the hiring committee. All interviews are not elimination rounds. The company looks at your performance holistically. A weak signal in one interview can sometimes be overcome by strong signals in other within that stage. And be prepared for a marathon. The entire process from first call to final decision will easily take a few months. The interviews alone often span 6 to 8 weeks, and that doesn't even count the most time-consuming part, which we'll discuss later. In the rest of this video, we'll break down each stage and how to tackle it like a pro. Alright, stage 1, the recruiter screening. This first call is the official gate to the entire process. The recruiter's job is to verify you are a credible candidate by assessing your experience and communication skills. They'll ask you to walk through your resume, why you're looking for a new role, and about your salary expectations. Your goal is to have a concise, powerful 2-minute career narrative ready and to state your salary numbers confidently. This is not time for a deep negotiation. A final pro tip: if a recruiter calls you unexpectedly and you can't talk freely, always ask to reschedule. Simply say, I am very interested in speaking with you, but now isn't a good time. Can we schedule a call for later? A rescheduled call is always better than a bad first impression. For the rest of the process, treat your recruiter as your key stakeholder. Build a professional relationship. Be responsive and proactive with your availability. Alright, once you have passed the recruiter screen, you will enter the technical evaluation stage. It is typically broken down into 2 types: system design and the code review challenge. So typically you will face 2 system design rounds first. If you do well in those, you will proceed to 1 or 2 code review rounds. You'll only move to the next stage if your collective performance in these technical rounds is strong. Before we get into the specifics, let me give you some universal advice for both rounds. First, a quick mindset check. It is important to be humble. The interviewer asking you the question isn't necessarily smarter than you, but you must assume they have mastered this specific problem. They know it inside and out, they have seen dozens of solutions, and they know the optimal path and the common traps. So while it's healthy and often expected to have a technical debate, don't argue. Bring your points, defend your decision, but if they push back, listen. They are likely trying to genuinely guide you. Second, don't worry about specific tools. If you are an expert in AWS, don't waste your time cramming Google Cloud. If you are fluent in Java, don't try to learn a new language a week before interviews. Interviewers are trained to focus on your understanding of core concepts, not your knowledge of specific brand or technology. Your deep knowledge of one ecosystem is enough to demonstrate your experience. The system design interview is often the most intimidating for candidates. And the single biggest mistake people make is preparing for the wrong kind of questions. You might only be practicing huge, broad problems like design YouTube or design Netflix. And while that's a good starting point to learn the concepts, the actual Google interview will likely focus on depth over breadth. They will give you a much more specific constraint problem. For example, instead of design YouTube, They might ask you to design the system that updates a creator's subscriber count in near real time across all Google services. They want to see how you handle trade-offs, how you scale a specific component, and how deep your technical knowledge really goes. So here's a quick tip. You should ask your recruiter what tool will be used for the interview. Most Google interviewers use Google Docs. This allows them to document your design as you create it and makes it easier for them to collaborate and guide you. Whatever the tool is, make sure you familiarize yourself with it so you aren't fumbling with the interface during the interview. You should familiarize yourself with technologies like Redis, Kafka, SQS, S3, etc. Gain mastery in where to use which technology and why. Now, this is a critical interview. Because of that, I have created a separate deep dive video on exactly how to master a system design interview, which I'll link in the description. The second part of your technical evaluation is the code review. You will be presented with a block of code and your job is to analyze it like you would do for teammates' pull request. Don't jump directly into fixing the code. Your absolute first step is to understand it. You need to figure out the code's how and why. How does it work? And why was it written this way? The code is likely a small snippet from a larger system, so you won't have all the context. You must ask clarifying questions. It is perfectly fine and actually expected for you to ask questions. You can ask questions like, can you walk me through what this function is supposed to accomplish? Or you can point to a specific part and ask, what was the developer's intention with this logic here? Only once you are clear on code's purpose, you should begin your review. I recommend you tackle it systematically, looking for issues in this order from easiest to hardest to spot. First, look for simple syntax errors and readability issues. This is the low-hanging fruit. Are there missing semicolons, typos in variable names, or incorrect keywords? Find those first. Also, look for naming convention errors and readability issues. You might see mix of camel case and snake case in code that you can point out. There could be function names mismatch or misspelled keywords also. Second, hunt for code redundancy. This is one of the most common issues. Look for identical or very similar blocks of code repeated in multiple places. You can say, I see these lines are repeated here and here. I would recommend we extract this logic into a simple reusable function to keep our code dry. Dry stands for don't repeat yourself. It is a common practice in engineering to not have too much of redundant code to keep the code maintainable. Third, find the logical errors. These are the critical bugs that can break a system. A classic example is off by one error in a loop, like using I less than equal to 5 when the logic requires I less than 5. This can lead to processing the wrong amount of data and even an array out of bound exception. Fourth, and most importantly, suggest optimizations. This is where you really demonstrate your seniority. Look for areas where you can suggest algorithmic optimizations. For example, I see this code is doing a linear search on a list. If we know this data is sorted, we could replace this with a binary search to improve performance from O of n to O of log n. You could also suggest a more efficient sorting algorithm if one is being used. Now, you can also suggest things to make code more concise, like using a shorthand operator instead of simple if-else block. But you must frame this as a leadership decision. Say, we could make this more compact, but it might hurt readability. What does a team normally prioritize? This shows that you think about long-term code maintenance. And remember, after you point out the issues, they will ask you to write the corrected code. Your fundamentals must be solid. So that's a high-level overview. Let me know in the comments if you would like a dedicated deep dive video on mastering code review interviews. So once you have cleared your technical interviews, you'll move to the next group, the leadership and behavioral round. This is where they verify your experience leading high-performing teams. They are assessing your leadership style and culture fit. At Google, this is famously called Googliness, but every top company is looking for similar core qualities. In short, they want to see leaders who not only get things done and manage complex projects, but also thrive in ambiguity, value feedback, and genuinely care about their teams and their users. They are essentially testing you on 3 core pillars of leadership. First, people management. How you grow your engineers, manage performance, and handle team conflict. Second, project delivery. How you manage stakeholders, navigate ambiguity, and deliver complex projects on schedule. And third, strategy and vision. How you think beyond the current sprint to influence your team's roadmap and technical direction. To assess this, they'll ask two main types of questions. First are behavioral questions, which start with "Tell me about a time when." Second type is hypothetical questions like "What would you do if a project is falling behind schedule?" The key to answering is a two-step approach. First, briefly explain your general philosophy for that situation. Second, and most importantly, ground it in reality with a specific practical example from your career. It's the concrete example that proves you can do the job. For instance, if they ask about a team conflict, you would first explain your general method for resolving it and then immediately tell a story about a real conflict you managed, what you did, and what the outcome was. It's the concrete example that proves you can do the job. If you want a more detailed guide on mastering such type of questions, check out my other videos where I have given a detailed playbook on how to tackle such questions like a pro. Alright, great. You have made it through the main interviews. Now you enter what is often the most time-consuming step, that is team matching. All of your interview feedback, your resume, and your recruiter's notes are now compiled into what's known as your hiring packet. This packet is then shared internally, often on a portal where hiring managers who are looking to fill a role like yours can review it. Hiring managers review these packets and shortlist candidates they want to talk to for a fit call. If you have a strong background from a top tech company and your interview feedback is outstanding, you'll likely get more calls. For many candidates, this part takes time. You might have a great call and then wait for weeks before another team reaches out. This is normal. So let's talk about the fit call. This isn't just one call, it could be a series of conversations with the hiring manager, potential peers, or even a skip level manager. These are not deep dive technical interviews. They've already seen your technical feedback in the packet. In these calls, they're trying to understand the complexity and scale of your experience. Be prepared to talk in detail about the most complex projects you have worked on. They want to hear about the real-world impact you have had and the level of scale you have operated at, like managing a service with millions of requests per second. Remember, this is a two-way interview. You must come prepared with your own sharp questions about the team's roadmap, challenges, and the culture. This signals you are a high-caliber candidate. Don't just ask what does the team do. Ask questions like, what is the biggest challenge this team is facing in next 6 months? How does the team's work align with the broader organization goals? What does success look like for this role for the first year? The entire purpose for these fit calls is to find a manager who is excited to hire you. When they decide you are the right fit, they will write what's called as statement of support. This is a formal internal document where the hiring manager makes the case that they want to hire you for their team. But even with that, you have one final barrier, the hiring committee. The final stage before an offer is the hiring committee, or HC. This is not an interview you attend. It's a final, unbiased review of your entire profile that happens behind the scenes. The committee's purpose is to ensure a consistent, high hiring bar across the company. The panel consists of impartial senior leaders who review your case, and a decision is usually made within 1 to 2 weeks. They holistically review your entire packet, all your interview feedback plus your new statement of support. If you have strong experience and had great interviews, hiring committee review can sometimes happen before team matching also. Now, while you wait, you can boost your packet with strong internal references. The key here is to ask only former colleagues who can genuinely vouch for your work. Don't ask strangers for references, as it can do more harm than good, so be strategic. From the HC review, there are 3 possible outcomes and your recruiter will call you with the final decision. Let's break down what each one means for you. First, and the best, is a hire decision. Congratulations, this means you are moving to the offer stage. The conversation will immediately shift to compensation, and how you handle this is critical. My strongest advice is this: don't be the first one to give a number. Your goal is to get them to tell you the compensation band for the role. Don't just benchmark against your current salary and ask for a 30% hike. Their budget might be way higher than you think. Do your homework beforehand. Go to sites like levels.fyi and research the salary bands for your target role and level at that company. This data is your power. And if you have a competing offer from another company, that is your single greatest point of leverage. Use it. The second outcome is more data. This means the committee is on the fence. They see your potential but have a lingering question, usually from an interview with mixed feedback. They will ask you to do one more interview targeted at that specific weak spot. See this as a golden opportunity. Your recruiter will likely tell you exactly what the committee wants you to resolve. Focus your preparation on that one area, nail that final interview, and you can turn a maybe into a hire. Finally, there's the no hire decision. My advice here is to accept the outcome professionally. There is no value in arguing with the recruiter. The decision is final. Instead, look forward. Top companies have a cooling off period, typically around 6 months. Use this as a head start. Pinpoint the weak spots from your interviews, double down on your preparation, and come back even stronger for the next opportunity. So that's it. The complete playbook to clear the modern engineering manager interview process at companies like Google. I know this process is intimidating, but by knowing exactly what to expect, you now have a significant edge. This process is a well-designed system, and now that you understand that system, you are no longer a candidate hoping to get lucky. You are a professional preparing with a specific strategy to win. If you have any questions, comment on this video. I'll try to personally answer all of your questions. If this video was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.